Hey everyone, it's Katie from Bobby Hair Studio. If this is your first time here on this channel, then you're going to see a full transformation with all of my formulas and methods in this video. If this is not your first time here, then welcome back and thank you so much for coming to see me again. Today I'll be transforming my stylist and client in my chair today. Her name is Devin. Now Devin usually sees her friend or she does her money piece herself, and what she wants to do is transition from basically having all virgin hair plus a money piece to going as super blonde as she possibly can in one appointment. So stick around and watch the whole tutorial today. And if you like this video, remember to like because it's a free way of showing me some support, and remember to subscribe and turn on the notification bells for all future tutorials. So we are going to get started, and we're going to start with talking about how I'm doing my sectioning. Because Devin already has this really large money piece, I'm not going to need to foil that at all. It's already lifted to the perfect level of what I want. It's a raw blonde, it's beautiful. And so what I'm doing is I'm literally just putting that away, and I'm doing foils in only any of her virgin color. So I'm basically just sectioning out her top and her back. Now the way that you can get max blonding done in one appointment is to literally foil every single hair. The way that you can do that is to simplify by taking each section that you do and separating it into two pieces. The top half you weave out almost like a baby light or a medium weave, depending on what kind of definition you want in the hair up in the root line. And then whatever's left in the bottom half, you can back comb and paint lightener up on the ends of it. What that does is the bottom half of this section is going to have some bold blonding in the ends and a soft blonde up towards the root, but it's going to be quite rooty. You can see that that's what I'm doing here is I'm giving it great saturation, and I'm using the edge of my brush to feather up towards the back combing, but I'm trying not to touch the actual back combed pieces. Then I'm folding up the foil on that to insulate it, and I'm taking that top woven part out, and that's going to be a highlight that goes all the way to the top of her hair. I'm going to spend some time today talking about how I choose to do each half of my section today. This top piece, the piece that's been woven out, is more like a baby light or a fine weaved highlight. And the reason why I chose to do that is because I want to give her a really soft root. Her natural level is a level 8, but what this soft baby light ends up doing is it makes it look like her natural level is lighter than it really is, and that's because of the fine weave. If I wanted to give her more depth and dimension and have contrast between her natural color and the lighter color, I would choose a chunkier weave so you could see the definition between those highlights that are in the first couple inches of the roots. All over the head, I'm kind of experimenting with some finer weaves and some wider weaves. As you can see in the piece that I'm working on right here, this has a little bit more of a wider weave than what I was doing underneath. What I was doing underneath also provides for a softer grow out if she only wants to maintain her balayage once a year, but she wants to do a half balayage twice a year. The finer weave combined with the back combing is going to provide her with a softer grow out underneath. And the slightly larger weave up on the top areas, with the back combing being up a little bit higher and closer to the root, is going to give her more bold blonding and a little bit more contrast, which is going to be maintained a little bit more often, but that's okay because it's on the top and we do want to see regular maintenance being done up on the top of her head. Now we need to start talking about how I'm doing my back combing and why. What traditionally happens when you're doing highlights is that anything that you don't put into the foil when you weave gets dropped out, and that is what we call a drop. Those are technically what I would call lowlights. It's the darker parts of your hair that don't get highlighted. But when I'm max blonding and I want 100% of the hair to be blonde at the ends of the hair, is I actually, instead of dropping out the drops, I actually take them, back comb them, and paint the ends of it super blonde. That way we get the impact of all that blonde towards the end of the hair. And when you back comb that piece, then it makes the roots softer, and that the little highlights that you're putting in the piece above it stand out against those roots. So now we're going to talk about the rules of back combing. The closer you are to the ends of the hair when you start back combing, the more blend you'll get. With that blend, you'll also get less blonde. If you backcomb from higher up on the hair strand, closer towards the scalp, the blend will not be as soft, but you will get more blonde. So if your client wants a rootier, softer, more subtle look, your top part of your weave should be a baby light, and the dropped out part should be backcombed from low down on the hair strand and pushed all the way up. Then that's going to create lots of the hair being pushed out of the foil and creating lots of soft blending. If your client wants to be maximum blonde, then you can use larger weaves, and whatever gets dropped out, you backcomb from higher up on the hair, because then that means that there's less root exposed. But it does mean that there is a higher risk of having less blended looking areas. So that's one thing you do have to keep in mind. If you're having a hard time making sure your clients have good blend, then just do a little bit more backcombing, or backcomb from further down on the hair strand, because that will automatically push more of those shorter baby hairs out of the way and they won't get lightened. For the last example, if your client wants to have bold blonding and lots of pieciness in her blonde, but still all of the ends to be pretty solid, what I would do is my weaves would be chunky, but my backcombed piece would be backcombed from medium to far down the hair. Then that way I can make sure all of my ends are blonde, but all of the pieces coming up towards the top are really bold and more standoutish and have higher contrast to her natural color. For my client today, I didn't bother to do any kind of combinations. I just did medium or fine weave on all of my weaves, and on my backcombing areas, I kept it generally high up, but I didn't have a specific spot that I backcombed from. I just kind of kept it within an area, you know, high to medium high. Then that way I could get a really soft, natural looking root. So here is what she looks like with all of her foils in. Again, I left her money piece out, and she's just basically catching up with all of that virgin color, catching up to about level 9.5, 10. Here I have her washed out and detangled, and you can already see the difference in when she has a bleached out piece with a little bit of root versus the backcombing and the foiling. It looks so much softer where we backcombed and foiled, but it looks so much bolder where she has her money piece that's fully solidly bleached out. Now I'm going to tone her with Schwarzkopf Vibrance. My toner formulation is 9-1, 9.5, 1, and a dash of 9.55. What this formula means is essentially 9 cool, 9.5 cool, and 9 gold. What I really like about the gold tones in Schwarzkopf is that they are what I would consider like almost a cool gold. Like I feel like they're very champagne-y. They're not super yellowy. And even though this toner goes on crazy yellow, it won't wash off crazy yellow. She'll have a very soft, bright blonde without it being too warm. Her natural color is quite warm and has quite a bit of ginger undertones to it, so we didn't want to have an ashy color, because if we had an ashy blonde on top of a warm natural color, that looks muddy to me. And so we wanted to keep it bright and shiny and almost white blonde, but still have that kind of blonde undertone. So that's why we made sure that we had some of that gold in there and didn't just cancel out the yellow. So I've got my blonde toner on first, and that's going to create a light barrier between the root shadow and the highlights. So this is my root shadow, and I'm just mixing it up with a bit of a lotion actually instead of a gel. And the lotion helps me to apply it a little bit more directly to where I want it to be and not smudge around so much. So my root tap formula is Schwarzkopf Vibrance, and it's in 8.0 and 8-11. Now, if your client has naturally warm hair, this is a great formula for them. If they have hair that they want it to be kind of on the cooler side and they want a cooler, ashier blonde, I would say make most of your formula the 8-11 and only a little bit of the 8.0. Having a natural like this 8.0 in the formula is important to me, because what I find that the ash tones do is if you have only ash tones as the root tap is it creates a hollow looking root, and you can see the foils through the root too much. I find you can still tell where they start and where they end. But when you have a tiny bit of natural, and in this case more of the formula is natural because again we want to maintain that warm side of her hair, The warm tones help to fill the hair back in and to keep the toner in longer. So even as we're watching, you can see that her blonde formula has already started to deal with the yellow tones in her hair, but it's not going to purpley or ashy right now. It's actually going to a beautiful bright beigey blonde, and that's exactly what we want. And then the root shadow is just blending that out. And that's what I really like about showing these sped up versions of what I'm doing, because then you guys get to see how the color processes really quickly, rather than having to stand there for 25 minutes watching it in real time. When I'm doing light colors on lighter hair, like a level 6 to a level 9 natural, I do like to actually put on my toner for the blonde formula first, and then I put on my root shadow. You've probably seen maybe in a couple of my previous videos where maybe I put on the root shadow toner first, and then I do the blonde toner secondary, and I tend to blend in between those two spaces. But recently I found that I like doing it the opposite way, and the reason is because the blonde toner creates this light barrier between the roots, like what I talked about earlier, and it provides an easier blend, because when hair has been lifted and it has a raw blonde, it kind of just likes to suck up that first toner that you put on it. And if you put the first toner on it and it's a darker toner and you don't put it on entirely blended, like there's a tiny line in there somewhere, it will suck it up and show it. So when you put on that blonde first, it sucks up all the blonde, and then you layer on top of it a darker color, then it just blends that in really beautifully, and you don't have to worry about trying to feather everything around. You can work a lot faster and more efficiently, and you can get everything done in better timing doing it this way. Especially for anybody struggling with blending their root toners and their root smudges, please do try this out. I promise you, you're going to find that it's such a nice way of applying your root shadows. So here is her result after I've just given it a quick blow dry. She is looking so soft and so blonde. I am so happy with this result, and I hope you guys are too. I want to hear what you guys think in the comments. This is some of her hair sectioned up. You can even see underneath it's still looking really soft. You can see those little highlights and a little bit of her root shadow, but it is so impeccable and soft. And this is her hair when it's curled. Obviously, I'm going to style it for you guys to see. This is it in indoor lighting. It looks a little warmer than it is in real life on the camera, but I am really happy with this. It was a very simple process to do. I made it really easy for you guys to understand, I hope, and I hope you guys followed along all the way to the end of the video. If you did, let me know what your favorite emoji is in the comments. I want to see. And remember to like and subscribe, you guys. That really helps the channel out. It's a free way to support me. And if you want to, follow us on Instagram as well at Bobby Hair Studio. Thank you guys. Love you. Have a great night.